Welcome to episode 61 of the Next Block. We have a special guest, Baird, and we have David with us, Crypto for Change. What's good, y'all?
Nothing much. Excited to be here, and obviously a little mix-up for the next block. We said that 2023 was going to be the year we were going to be branching out and bringing in some different people from different ecosystems, and we are following through on that. So this will be one of the many that we've had so far this year from Cardano. So obviously, if there's anybody in the Cardano community who is watching, be sure to hit that like button, share it, get more people in here. Obviously, we want to branch out and learn about what these other communities are doing and what they're building in their ecosystems, because this whole space is growing so fast that it's hard to keep up. And so it's good to have people from these projects come and just show us what everybody's up to and how this space is evolving. So glad to be here and glad that Kriss has joined the show.
Yeah, glad to be here with you guys. It's a pleasure. Pleasure's all mine.
So yeah, and y'all make sure you hit some retweets, hit some relikes, continue to leave those comments. And if you have any questions for Project Catalyst and Kriss, make sure that you write them below. So, okay, let's begin. Kriss, you want to start with an introduction of who you are and what are you building?
Yeah, sure. Happy to. So my name's Baird. I've been with Input Output, the main software, one of the main software development organizations building out the Cardano protocol. I've been with IO for the last 2 and a bit years, and I'm the product lead at Project Catalyst. And Project Catalyst is something that's pretty remarkable, and I think it's easy for me to say that as the product lead and be sort of shilling my own project. But maybe you guys in the audience will leave it to you to decide whether it's tremendous and very remarkable or not. So what is Catalyst? Well, Project Catalyst is Cardano's innovation engine. I guess it could be most traditionally likened to a grant program, but rather than being a traditional grant program where you put your proposal in and then ultimately at some point in the future some crusty old dudes decide whether or not your proposal lives or dies, and those crusty old dudes normally amount to like 3 or 4 people in a room hashing out whether they like your proposal or not, or even if they don't really come from a position of expertise. Rather than that being the way that Cardano's innovation engine operates, we flipped it almost entirely on its head. We've been doing this for 2 years, really trailblazing and paving the way for how decentralized governance and distributed decision making can be done at scale in the future. So, I mean, that probably doesn't really give too much of an understanding as to what we actually do, but what Catalyst really is all about. It's a community-driven innovation endeavor, meaning that the community and you're by becoming part of Catalyst and submitting a proposal or coming to join any of the events, you're beginning to become part of the community. So when I say the community, I'm not just talking about people that have been in Cardano, but people that are from other ecosystems and spaces that are looking for resources to build their Web3 vision, or projects that are there to support the growth of Cardano's ecosystem, whether that's for marketing purposes or otherwise. But essentially, you guys in the community come to Catalyst with your great ideas. You submit proposals within a given funding round, and a funding round is normally about 3 or 4 months long. Your proposal gets submitted. Community members, quite often hundreds of community members, then participate in a review stage where they're giving their opinions and their feedback and scoring each proposal against, criteria. How impactful is it going to be? How feasible is the approach? Whether it's a good representation of value for money. These are the sorts of criteria that the community is scoring and reviewing the proposals against. And then all of those reviews and these scores then get loaded into our voting application. And this becomes information that voters are primed with. So then voters not only read the proposals, but they also take the inputs and the signals that have been given by the community reviewers and ultimately make decisions on which proposals should be funded from the treasury. And so this is why it's a really interesting dynamic, right? Because you've got, as I said, you guys in the community submitting proposals. You guys are, reviewing them and giving opinions as to whether or not you think they're good or not, and then ultimately casting your votes to decide which ones should receive funding. So that is turning the traditional grants model on its head. My pitch hub is normally, if you could play more of an active role in deciding how resources are spent on causes you care about, do you want to play or not?
And I think that's huge. Like right now, that's what everybody in Algorand is kind of, up in arms about. I mean, you have the first, well, I guess it would be the second AVM chain that's planned to launch called Voy, which is some developers in the Algorand community who are, it's not a hard fork or anything. They're starting from, ground zero, but they're going to be using the AVM, and it's mainly built around creating a more decentralized governance structure so that funds and the revenue from the chain is more decentralized in how, the community gets to choose this money. Because right now, being someone who holds Algo, being someone who holds some of these other tokens, these proposals, they kind of just come up out of nowhere, and you're like, who is the one who said, hey, this is what we should vote on? And for Algorand's spot, we've seen it has become more decentralized, but it's still, I would say, in my opinion, fairly centralized. So hearing what you guys are kind of building, it does sound more decentralized. And I know that Cardano, just from what I've seen on Twitter, tokenomics wise, seems to be one of the most decentralized tokens among retail, large whales, stuff like that. So it seems like that is one thing where Cardano is very good at, which is decentralization. How decentralized is this Project Catalyst, though? So like, how many people are actually able to propose things? And then how many, you said it takes about a 3-month or so process for a funding round. How many people in this ecosystem are voting?
Yeah. All really good questions. So let me talk you through essentially how the makeup of catalysts and our impact to date looks like. So we've got about 60,000 community members signed up to our mailing list. So I think that's one good benchmark of, how many people are participating. We have, tens of thousands of registered wallets for voting. And then we have thousands and thousands of people that actually participate in voting. It changes from fund to fund. We've kind of grown steadily over the past 9 iterations. We're currently at Fund 10. We just launched a couple of weeks ago Fund 10. So the proposal submission window is still open, and you're able to submit proposals up until the 13th of July. So if you've got a great idea, then that's your opportunity to submit ideas and see whether or not you can get funding for it. But to come back to your questions, how decentralized is it? We've, in the 9 iterations of Catalyst, we've seen over 1.7 million votes cast.
Damn.
We've funded projects, like people, as in someone submitted a proposal, it's gone through the whole process, and then it's been funded. We've funded projects from over 100 countries around the world today. And these are all builders, right? These are all people that are building dApps or products and services or tooling for developers, or, launching local community centers in Nairobi or in Johannesburg or Cape Town, or, doing translation of Haskell programming books in Vietnamese, right? And then, as I said, we have thousands and thousands of people voting. The barrier to entry to actually submit proposals is non-existent. Anyone could submit a proposal. You could put in a proposal around your great idea, so long as it's obviously leveraging Cardano or has some sort of cross-chain capabilities, and it's squarely in the pocket for like one of the categories or challenges that are in a given fund, then it's in scope. Anybody can submit a proposal. In terms of voting, you need to hold 500 ADA to participate in voting, which again,
it's affordable.
It's pretty affordable, right?
Yeah.
And then, as I said, there's been well over 1 million votes. Well, there was 350,000 votes cast in Fund 9, and from Fund 1 onwards, it's basically been exponential. We've been doubling in size every single round. both in terms of like, you know, how many proposals submitted, how many get funded, how many votes take place. It's it's pretty phenomenal, I think. And yeah, we've just seen
Testimony.
Yeah, there we go. We got
testimony
somebody in the
here.
audience.
At a
Holy
project
Macaroni
approved
is
by
one of the
community.
Catalyst funded projects. He's one of 1,155 projects funded in the last 2 years.
Wow.
And I think
Just
it's
take stock of
interesting,
that.
something that you said before the show kind of started when you were giving me the high level is what the funds, where does the funds come from to actually fund Project Catalyst? Because I think that is pretty cool. And I think it's important, especially when you look at why is Ethereum successful? And it's because it has a revenue, you know, there is revenue coming in to keep the engine going. I think what you're seeing in this bear market and reason why there's so much angst is because a lot of these blockchains don't have any revenue and the money's drying up and everybody's fighting for scrap. So tell us how Project Catalyst funds itself.
Yeah, it's a really, really great questions. And, you know, I have to tip my cap to, you know, Input Output's founder and their scientific team. And this is Charles Hoskinson I'm talking about, obviously.
Yep.
And then, yeah, my colleague Agalos, who's the chief scientific officer, because, you know, it all comes down to protocol design. And at the heart of Cardano's protocol design is an understanding that the treasury and the transactions that take place on the blockchain to feed the treasury are really not just like super important, they're critical to the self-sustainability and self-sufficiency of a decentralized ecosystem. So what do I mean by that? Well, very simply, the way that Catalyst works is that every single time there's a transaction that takes place on the Cardano blockchain, there's a transaction fee. Like that's something that we're all used to. The fees on Cardano are much smaller than you know, other blockchains.
What's the average price of a fee?
About 0.17 ADA.
Okay.
About that. So it's tiny, right?
Yep.
And then I mean, that's a typical transaction fee.
Yep.
And then of that 0.17 ADA, typically there's a slice of, well, not typically, there's a slice of a 20% of that fee that goes directly into the treasury. So the treasury today, every epoch, which is every 6 days, it has about 5.5 million ADA added to it in transactions. And that's basically at the bottom of a bear market, right?
Yeah. Wow.
So, you know, if you can imagine when things are absolutely flying, and, you know, I don't care about price, and this is not what the discussion is, but obviously higher volume of transactions, higher number of transaction fees, more going into the treasury, right? Today, the treasury stands at, and forgive me if I'm a little bit off, but it's probably somewhere in the order of around about 1.4 to 1.5 billion ADA. And that treasury is there to be used exclusively to fund the growth of the ecosystem and ultimately to be able to, you know, develop the governance structures and practices that afford self-sustainability and self-sufficiency, so that, you know, if any of the big players and you know, the main contributors to the Cardano protocol somehow disappear off the face of the planet, there's still an active and working and operating model that can allow it to continue to operate, right? So that's part of the beauty of it. And then Catalyst is a part of this. It's not certainly the only the only entity or organization or kind of group that is able to benefit from the Cardano treasury. We actually, you know, operate a really, really tiny sliver of the total capacity that could be realized from making use of the treasury. So we effectively invite the community to submit proposals on what are the priorities and the sort of themes and the issues in the space. Those are then the sort of challenge categories that get set through the vote and through the funding cycle that I mentioned. And then in the next fund, those challenges that got decided upon in, say, the previous fund are the challenges that are then receiving applications and proposals to solve them in the next fund. So if you to have a look at our Fund 10 launch guide, and I'm going to drop into the chat right now.
We can screen share it too if that would work better.
You can screen share it. Yeah, okay. Why don't we do that? So if someone wants to screen share that link, I'd always recommend people go to projectcatalyst.io at the very least. And this is our website where you'll get all the TLDR on all the good things happening in Catalyst, but you'll also be able to dive into any of the funded projects and learn a bit more about them. But what you're seeing on the screen here is what I like to think of our business card. This is the Fund 10 launch guide. So if you scroll down, this will give everybody that's new to Catalyst a really good starting point on what Catalyst is all about, how it operates, what are the sorts of things that you need to do, or what are the roles that you can play.
Sorry about that, y'all.
And you can learn about how to get involved, importantly. But
I'm messing up.
I think one of the other things just to mention is that it's not all just about submitting proposals and trying to win funding for your project, right? You know, there's so many more people in the community that are actually not intending to build a product or, you know, running an event or something like that. But there's still ways that you can get involved. And this is another really tremendous thing and fascinating thing about Catalyst and what we've built. So there are different stages of the fund. And I mentioned one of them that, you know, after you've submitted your proposal, the community then reviews those proposals and scores them against criteria. So anybody in the community, and when I say the community, I mean the broader crypto community, but hopefully those, you know, that are interested in Cardano, you guys can get involved in this community review stage. And you're actually rewarded ADA for contributing and participating in this stage. So all you have to do is sign up to become a community reviewer, choose which of the challenges or categories that you're interested in participating in. And then when it's the community review stage, you'll be allocated, you know, up to 30 proposals to review. You'll review them as a new level 0 community reviewer. And then so long as obviously you've been, you know, reasonably fair, and I hope, you know, you'll forgive my French, you've not been a dick. So long as you've not been offensive in your review, that review is going to be part of the information that's served to voters. And you'll then share in rewards, a pot of rewards for contributing your time and your opinion and your feedback to helping, you know, give a review about a proposal.
I want a side note real quick, because when I think about Algorand, you know, we have the ex-govs for the algo people that know. This is the type of show that they need to watch this show right here and get a great understanding of how to run a grants program. And I kind of told you that privately, but I just wanted to say that on the show. This is amazing. And
you said that each one starts, like if someone were to, you know, obviously I'm sure you have to hold a certain amount of ADA to participate in. Do you have to hold any amount of ADA to participate in the reviewing process, or can you just earn it?
No, yeah, you don't have to. There's no, right now, there's no minimum amounts of holdings that you need. It might be something that we change in the future, right? Like if all of a sudden, as a result of Fund 10, there's like 50,000 new community reviewers,
right?
And maybe we need to put some checks and balances in place. But right now, the important point is that everybody's opinions are welcome. We really like the concept of, you know, collective crowdsourced wisdom. And, you know, ultimately, your opinions can help voters to inform the decisions that they make, right? I mean, you know, in a given round, like in Fund 9, for example, there were 1,600 proposals submitted, right? That's an awful lot of proposals for voters to be able to wade through without any signals from the community as to whether or not they think the thing's going to fly. So
I'm going to share the website too, real quick.
Yeah, please. Projectcatalyst.io is also a really, really good place to dive into.
And this is that Fund 9 you were talking about.
Yeah. So for example, if you go to Fund 9, if you scroll down the page, Will, and then you can see the different types of challenges. Now let's just pick a challenge, for example. If you pick dApps products and integrations, the one just underneath there where you are, click that one. So then this gives you a little bit of information about the challenge that was, you know, a Fund 9 challenge, the previous fund, the last iteration, gives you the TLDR about that challenge. And if you keep on scrolling down, you'll then also see these are all the proposals that were funded in Fund 9 under this challenge. And the one that's got the thumbnail video,
this one.
So here's the other thing. when you complete a project, so once you've received all your funding, you've delivered your thing, whatever that thing is, in order to complete the project, you're required to submit a project close report and a project close video. So we call this proof of achievement, right?
Mm.
So we're making sure that not only is funding going out the door, but we're making sure that funded projects bring the receipts that they actually did what they say they were going to do.
Yeah.
And then over the last 6 months, we've actually changed this process slightly. So now we're introducing milestone-based funding. So let's say you win the funding for your idea. You then, at the start of the project, set out, say, for example, 4 milestones that's going to get you from the start to the end. And a milestone is like a point in time that's sort of demonstrating significant progress in the project, right?
Yeah.
So now with milestone-based funding, this is another real interesting, novel thing to demonstrate decentralization. Once you've delivered your milestone, you're required to do proof of achievement to show that you've achieved that milestone. So we're not saying, oh, prove it to the Catalyst team you've done this. We're saying prove it to the community. So we've got community members that are then verifying that those milestones were achieved and then signing off of them. And only once they've been signed off does the team receive the next batch of funding to reach the next milestone.
So this stops rug pulls. This stops all the
a
trickery,
lot of grant harvesting and stuff like that. Yeah.
Because
And
there's
you
a
said-
lot of projects on like Algorand, for example. We're gonna keep going back and forth comparing Algorand to ADA, but there's a lot of projects that got funded exactly what you said, and then 6, 8, 9 months later, there's no Twitter for them, their website, and they have completely ghost, and we see them in like near protocol or somewhere doing the same process.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
and that's
amazing.
that's just part of this. That's part of this entire ecosystem. Like that's
Yeah.
gonna happen because where there's money and money being given out, you're gonna have good people who actually have good intentions to build something, and you're obviously gonna have bad people in every ecosystem. But one thing I was kind of interested in, you said obviously if anybody joined this, the ability to review these these catalysts and these projects, you said they start out at level 0. How many levels are there, I guess, and how many? I guess what is the rewards? Do they go higher and higher as the levels you go?
Yeah, really good questions. So there's 3 levels currently: level 0, level 1, level 2. Level 0 is really for noobs, right?
Yeah.
As you'd expect, you're at the ground floor. We don't know who you are. You've got no reputation. You've got no track record.
Yeah.
So and also we got to think about, how do we design for adversity? If someone creates a nifty bit of script just to spin up 1,000 new community reviewer IDs, and then just spam the system, then we need ways to sort of combat that. So we've got process in place to combat that. So level 0s, you'll get automatically allocated 30 reviews. You can choose to do 10, you can choose to do 5, you can just choose to do just 1, whatever. And then, but if you do the 30, that's fine. But you'll also, however many you'll do, you'll share a pot of rewards. And those rewards are a maximum of 17 ADA per review. If you think about it like this, I mean, it's not a great deal, but then we need to account for per review, but we need to account for the fact that, you could be coming from a position of expertise just as much as you could be coming from, I don't know, the difference between a hash or a different type of hash.
Right.
Let me put it that way. And so, we got to account for this. So the point is, with level 0s, it's no barrier to entry. Everybody can participate, and you'll share in a pot of rewards. The more reviews there are, the lower the per rate per review becomes, right?
Yeah.
But once you've done, a certain number, and we'll probably be changing this threshold after Fund 10, because this process we've just refreshed and we've just brought it in brand new for Fund 10. So we'll get some data at the end of this fund, and then we'll level set everything again. But the idea is that after you've hit, say, a certain amount of reviews, you'll then go into level 1 for the next fund. And in level 1 in Fund 10 terms is you've already done 10 reviews in a previous fund. They were of a decent quality, and they were passed to voters to inform their decisions. So that's like the first thing that's to tick you off the box to get you into level 1. And then level 1s will again be automatically allocated 80 reviews. And you can choose to do 5, you can do 10, you can do all 80. And you'll get a guaranteed 33 ADA per review.
And that ADA comes out of the overall fund treasury, right?
Out of the overall fund budget,
Okay.
yeah. So there's 50 million ADA available for the whole of the fund, of which about 7% of that 50 million is available for community rewards incentives, right?
Yeah, it's a great way for the community to get involved and
to feel more participating in
the
projects that are getting through.
Yeah, the voice matters.
And then the level 2 is very much there's sort of a dual role for level 2s. Level 2s, again, they've been around the block a bit longer. They've got a bit more reputation, a bit more of a track record. They're going to play 2 roles. First of all, they're going to perform a sort of a moderation function. And what I mean by that is, once all the community reviews have been done, we run our Catalyst scripts, and these scripts will be checking every review for, is it long enough? Like, is it like under 150 characters, in which case it's probably, not very meaningful. Has it got any offensive language or profanities used in it? Has it been flagged by our AI script? I.e., has the review probably been spun up by ChatGPT? And if the flags are raised, then the moderators, these level 2s, will just do a sanity check. They ultimately are just asking themselves, is this information something that we should provide to voters?
Yeah.
Right. And so like any community moderator, you're not going to kick everybody out just for, making a misstep. You're going to be fair. You're going to use your best judgment. Is this something that we think the voters should see? So that's the first role. And then second of all is what I said earlier on. We're getting the community to verify proof of achievement. So the point is once you've been done a level 0, you've been to level 1, you've now got to level 2, you should have some trust and some reputation within the system. Therefore, you should be able to, we should be confident as a community that there are people that can be trusted to verify that someone's milestone was delivered or not. And then, for that milestone proof of achievement, there's a fair amount more ADA at stake. It's about 200 to 300 ADA per milestone review, right? And ultimately, this is about empowering people to understand what it takes to have really strong governance and community-led governance at the heart of it, right? And if we want to be autonomous and we want to be self-sustaining and we want to be in an environment that embraces inclusivity and diversity and values people's opinions and contributions, then first of all, it can't be voluntary and it can't be based on volunteerism only, because meaningful work deserves some sort of meaningful compensation.
Right.
You know what? Let me do another side tangent. It makes me think about in the U.S. having this type of system, because most voters don't even know what's in the bill. They just vote on faces and what they heard on TV. But if we did have a system where you have moderators that are putting in that work, but also a piece of the tax money does go to them, exactly what y'all doing, that would make things more clear. That's just me having a vision.
It's a fool's dream they're gonna happen. The one part that they're not ever gonna give up is that sliver of tax to go into anything except their pockets.
But go ahead, Chris. I just having a vision.
Oh man, hey, listen, I echo the same thoughts, right? Switzerland's a really interesting governance structure to sort of draw reference from. They have direct democracy there. So I actually vote on bills and causes and policies that I care about. And that certainly helped to frame some of our thinking and our approach within Catalyst. But ultimately, we've got to take control of these things ourselves. We've got to be enabled with the tooling and the user experience that makes it inviting to come and step into.
I was about to ask that, what does the user experience and these reviews that these people are doing, how intensive is the, quote unquote work that they're actually having to do? Is it just reviewing it and giving it thumbs up, thumbs down? Or is it actually creating a written piece and actual review about the thing that's being proposed?
Yeah. And you mentioned 150 characters. So there's lengths and limits then.
So was trying to strike a reasonable balance between people doing this on top of their day-to-day lives, but also making it meaningful, right? And historically, there have been people that have really contributed a whole lot of time into doing this role, like people that are taking their work holidays to spend doing reviews of Catalyst proposals. We'll caveat that there were some unbound earning limits in previous rounds, and so that was probably
little
the
gamification
for that.
to it.
Yeah, people turn it into a job.
Hey,
basically,
that's the point of Web3 right now, right?
Yep. Share the
You'd
wealth.
be surprised. Like we did a community survey about a year or so ago, a bit longer than that, 18 months, and something like 800 people responded, and of that, 3% had quit their full-time jobs to work full-time on Catalyst,
Man,
which is pretty nuts. But
Yeah.
to answer your question though, there's a little bit of written work to be done. As I said, there's these three key criteria: impact, feasibility, value for money. So you're expected to essentially scribe a paragraph or two about how you feel that proposal has responded to that criteria. And then these three pieces of written feedback and your scores then go into the voting application, which is on iOS and Android. You can download it now, Project Catalyst voting app.
And there's an app. That's what you're saying?
Yeah, there's an app. Yeah,
and so then you do the voting right now.
I'm like, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll say this, obviously, I know there's obviously, this is not we're not trying to bash Algorand. Algorand has not been around as long as Cardano, and Cardano has definitely, like with the fee structure, right? It's benefited from that. Algorand does not have that type of system in place right now, or at least not to my knowledge, but
like Cosmos, they have that same thing. You stake your Atom token, and then the fees go back to the stakers, which keeps things going and makes you want to secure the network.
And I will say, to Algorand's benefit, John Allen Woods, which is someone who's come over from Cardano, he is a part of Algorand, and I've spoken. We've had him on our show many times. We've spoken to him many times about how he is pushing for Algorand to start incentivizing and start creating better, ways to generate revenue for the chain. Because, like I said, if you don't do it, it's not going to last. And projects like what you're building on Cardano wouldn't be able to last, and there wouldn't be this community driven support behind it, because like you guys said, it's even for the level 0. I mean, that's still, you said like 15 or 13 ADA, and then for the next level is 30, and then for the top level is 200-300. I mean, bear market lows, right? Those values might not be high, but we know where the world's going, right? We know that everything is going to be tokenized. These blockchains are going to be increasing in popularity, and so you don't know what that value could become. And that's where it's even more, kind of lucrative, but also, just interesting to hear how everything is kind of being built together and trying to keep decentralization, which I know is on a spectrum of what is truly decentralized, but it seems like you guys are going in the right path. And one thing I did want to ask, and this is just kind of a question for your mind. I don't know how much you think of this, but what are your thoughts on how AI might attack or even replace a lot of this, because I know this past bull run, DAOs and decentralized, that whole idea was just really blowing up and growing, and everybody was trying to build a DAO. What is your thoughts with like how AI might either combat or help that DAO, model grow?
Yeah, it's really interesting, right? And it's a fascinating subject that I don't think I'm going to do it justice being able to unpack really. But I mean, what we will say is that predictive analytics is only going to becoming, something that we're all going to start leveraging. So, being able to use machine learning to sort of look at large data sets and then be able to infer or generate insights that we just wouldn't have had the time to wade through, right? And then that giving us sort of signals as to what's coming on down the line. So, I certainly see the benefit of AI for this predictive analytics, estimations of where trends are going, for sure. Where we could use that, I think, from ideas of sort of DAO space or DAO tooling, is maybe trying to crowdsource sentiment and help to give better data to those that are ultimately voting on things. you know, it's very, you know, and we've experienced this in Catalyst. Like, as I said, 1,600 proposals in Fund 9 is a hell of a lot of proposals to wade through to make sense of, to determine, well, actually, I think these 10 are the ones that I really want to vote for or not.
Yeah.
So, you know, where I would imagine it going, you know, certainly from our context, is using AI to, you know, understand what an individual's preferences are, and then being able to serve them back relevant data and information to help them inform their decision based on their sort of personality or their tendencies or their subject matter expertise or just interests, right?
Yeah.
And that's all pretty low level stuff as to what you can do pretty easily today, you know, through sort of, you know, user preferences and whatnot. But I think, you know, where there's opportunities to sort of expand upon that is for those AIs and agents to kind of scan and then scrape the rest of the internet or relevant domains, and then come back and, like, you know, get some really interesting insights. For example, like, okay, well, I want to know, before I vote on this proposal for a widget on Cardano, I want to know, what are the other sorts of similar widgets that have been built?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to ask Baird or chat, can you go out and, like, scrape the web and find out how many similar widgets towards this end have been built? Okay, well, all of a sudden it's served back to me, okay, there's 20 examples. These are all the examples. I looked through a couple of them. Which one's the most, like, the closest to this proposal?
Yeah.
You know, you can sort of see how it will help to advance our understanding of the sort of state of things a lot quicker than what we can currently do today with just search engine querying.
You're right, which takes a long time.
Yes.
Yeah. Even though Google can populate millions and millions and millions in, you know, point something seconds. So, you know, I had something, I don't know, what did Christian, for some reason, my
Christian's here.
I don't know if
Yes.
he had a
What's
question,
good,
but
Christian? So we know Christian, he has a question right here. What's excited? Maybe if we want to answer this question, if you know, Christian, we're mostly talking about Catalyst Project, the grant fundings program that Cardano's doing. So if you have any questions about grants or whatnot, please ask them. But if you want to try to answer this, Chris.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the most exciting thing that's coming down the Cardano roadmap are a couple of different things. First of all, it's the age of Voltaire. So we're on the tip of governance. We're talking about governance and decentralized governance and distributed decision making. That's essentially what the age of Voltaire is all about. Voltaire will be this next era of Cardano, where effectively the governance of the entire Cardano protocol is turned over to the community, right? And that's where, you know, we've got this idea of or this not an idea, it's pretty well established now, I shouldn't call it an idea, but we've got like you have in Ethereum and in Bitcoin, you have EIPs, BIPs. In Cardano we have CIPs, SIPs. So SIP 1694 is the proposal that lays out the improvement change to Cardano to essentially realize decentralized governance to manage the ongoing development of the protocol. And what that also then means is that the community will have opportunities and a clear pathway to being able to make decisions on other things as well, such as, you know, if someone wants to set up ultimately an alternative funding mechanism to compete with or to replace Catalyst, then
it could be done.
They could do that, right?
Yeah.
That's absolutely fine. And that's super exciting.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think is really exciting is what's called Babel fees. I don't know whether you guys have come across Babel fees yet.
I have not.
So Babel fees really simply means that you can pay transaction fees in whatever tokens you want. So rather than it costing you 0.17 ADA, maybe I'm going to pay with 1 million SNEC. Or
it's funny you mentioned a meme coin. I was looking in the back of my head. I'm thinking Algorand's big meme coin, Coop.
I was like Coop.
we've been talking about it. Like, you know, let's just get rid of Algo and just everything be paid in Coop. Coop tokenomics are way better.
Well, that's exactly it. So, you know, the idea, and then you as a fee receiver could even choose, okay, well, I'm only going to receive fees in these particular tokens.
Yeah.
Right. So
That's pretty cool.
Amazing.
kind of frees everything up a lot, you know, and
Yeah.
just allows the SPOs, the stake pool operators, the ones that are generating fees from the transactions that are taking place on the blockchain, them to have a bit more freedom to be able to set their own, you know, conditions, which again is healthy for this decentralized distributed network. And again, it also then means that you as someone that's using the protocol are able to choose whether or not you want to use ADA to pay for your transaction fees, or your coop, or your
That's
snake.
amazing.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. One thing before, I know we have some other questions here. We're going to get to those in the chat. It kind of puts you on the spot. And I know obviously you think highly of Project Catalyst as being, you know, the lead person behind it. But in the spectrum of decentralization among chains and governance, because I know that is a big thing that has to grow for, I think, a chain to truly survive, is there has to be some model of true decentralized governance. What chains do you think are putting this together the fastest and the best that are out there, out of the big ones? And you don't have to name all, maybe your top three. And obviously you can, if you think Project Catalyst is number one, then, do say so. But if you think there's anything else that's out there doing a great job, let us know that as well.
I mean, listen, there are a whole, and I think we were talking about this offline. Like, unfortunately, you become a little bit blinkered
Tunnel
to what's
vision.
going
Yeah.
on outside of your own backyard. You know, Catalyst has done and is continuing to do amazing things to demonstrate the art of the possible when it comes to sort of decentralized decision making and innovation, ecosystem growth. Like, I'll lay it out there. Catalyst is the world's largest decentralized innovation fund.
Number one.
And you know, it's community driven. There's so many different sort of roles that people can play that helps to then demonstrate that decentralization. So, you know, I don't think many people would argue with me when I say that. And I don't say it lightly, right?
Yeah.
If I couldn't defend it, I wouldn't say it. Is the point.
Yeah.
Certainly within our ecosystem, within Cardano, Clarity Protocol doing some really interesting, cool stuff with regards to decentralized governance. ADAO, who have, a number of different. ADAO is more like a collective, and they have a whole bunch of different projects. One of them being Summon Platform. There's a really cool tool called Consens that it's like Consens with a Z. They're doing great stuff to be able to surface insights and kind of generate community contributions and inputs that then help to maybe change and ratify documentation and processes. All of my colleagues work within the Voltaire team to actually bring legitimacy and governance at a decentralized level to Cardano to then decide the future of the protocol. I mean, those are just a few off the top of my head. I mean, outside of Cardano, I've got to give some credence to what Polkadot have done. I've looked at their governance documentation, and I don't fully understand all of it. And there's like, forgive me if I say this, it almost seems like there's a Masonic, like structure where you've got to get ended by someone to kind of join the club, and then you can kind of at different levels.
Climb that ladder.
You're like a level 9 sea dragon.
But that's interesting. We'll have to ask Christian. Christian's in the comments. He's been doing he's been delving into Polkadot and Moonbeam. So maybe he can let us know if he's been into any underground meetings yet.
Probably.
I say that with the utmost respect, right? Like,
right. I hold some dot. I like what Polkadot's doing. Obviously after this conversation, I'm going to be adding to my ADA pool, I think, and also taking a bigger look into what Project Catalyst is doing, because it is very interesting.
We got a couple more. Let's see if we can hit this one. Where would you suggest someone new to start in Cardano? DEX, lending, favorites? Little off topic, but curious.
Yeah, really good start. Really good question. So I would say to start with Cardano, the first thing that you should do is there's a really good guide to the ecosystem, which I will ship you in the chat.
Okay.
Nice.
And then you can repost it. So that's one. I would also say check out Cardano 360, which is a YouTube playlist that's on the IOHK YouTube. IOHK is the company that I work for, Input Output. And Cardano 360 gives you a bit of a TLDR on all of the good things that have happened in a month going on in Cardano. And then, more broadly for Catalyst, we run town halls every single Wednesday at 5 p.m. UTC. So you can come and join us in the live Zoom room and then come and meet and just chat to people in Catalyst community. But also, we obviously then publish that on IO's YouTube channel as well. So
Amazing.
again, and I would also say, if you go to projectcatalyst.io and you navigate through the funds section and then start looking at some of those proposals that, like we showed earlier on, you'll get yourself a good baptism of fire about all the great innovative stuff that's going on.
Yeah, I have a lot of research to do on Cardano. I'm hyped. One more question.
Yeah, everyday Algonaut, Ludo. Is that voting mechanism? Yeah, you got it.
Is the voting mechanism on Cardano going to support for GitHub pull request management? So everyday Algonaut, shout out to you, always popping in with great questions.
It's a great question. So within Catalyst, it doesn't. I mean, that's not how we operate Catalyst. How it will operate within the context of Voltaire and governance of Cardano. Again, I don't have the full scope on that. I don't think it will mean that once someone pushes a pull request, there's a governance voting mechanism as to whether to accept the pull request or not. It's a pretty cool idea, though. I'm not saying that it shouldn't be done either. Like, maybe that's something that you want to put forward as part of the contributions to comments for SIP 1694. Yeah. There's a whole bunch of workshops that are taking place all around the world over the last couple of weeks and the next couple of weeks. Check out Cardano.org, and that will take you to the forum, Cardano forum. And I'm sure there'll be information on that. And again, that's a great question to pose within that forum as well.
Another question I had, in thinking of like Algorand and a lot of the projects that are being built or that are maybe partnerships that are being made, anyone obviously can submit something to Project Catalyst to be reviewed and to possibly be voted on to get funding. Is there a part of Project Catalyst though that actually goes out and searches for Web 2 or other companies to actually build and try to fund more, I guess you could say, Web 2 to Web 3 type stuff, or is that just a whole other entity within Cardano?
No, I mean, it's again, these are tremendous questions, guys. So this is the beauty, right? If you think that your local town or city or your industry would really benefit from understanding about Catalyst, and that there's this novel funding alternative finance mechanism to help to bring Web 2 over to Web 3, then you can put in a proposal to have that project funded to come and onboard a whole bunch of other people. Let me give an example. You guys have probably come across Wolfram Alpha, and like maybe some of the if you haven't, they're part of the infrastructure that's helped to build out Siri, and probably does a whole bunch of really interesting machine learning stuff that's building out a lot of the AI capabilities. Anyway, Wolfram, for example, they're super well known within really techie circles. They've been being funded by Catalyst for about the last year in multiple funds, and one of the projects that they've recently completed is called the Wolfram Enterprise Private Cloud, and another project called the Digital Assets Decentralization Framework. So these two projects alone, their entire mandate and remit and proposal was, let's create the infrastructure and onboarding system that is going to help Web 2 companies and corporates, for example, to be able to dip their toe into blockchain without having to make millions of dollars worth of investment, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen for the last 4 or 5 years. You've seen people playing around, dipping their toe in the water, being burnt because it's too costly or not scalable, or the thing didn't work, or the next day the smart contract was found to have some major vulnerability, and all of a sudden $100 million has gone out of the ecosystem for whatever reason, right? So Wolfram have sort of taken it from the approach of, Well, we know Cardano is secure, and we know that it's trustworthy. We know it has the highest rigor around engineering and academic peer-reviewed process to be able to get to the design of the protocol. So we know that's solid, but how do we create the right tooling that's going to allow Web2 companies to come on board? So they got funded to build some capabilities and also create like the framework to be able to then start engaging with corporates. And now part of this is a product that they're trying to sell, right? So they're now going out and having their conversations with probably industry leaders in all manners of different domains and saying, oh, you want to do Web3, you want to do more decentralized or Oracle-led, whatever your use case might be, use of data or peer-to-peer transactions and distributed peer-to-peer interaction, should I say. We've created tooling for you to be able to do that. Similarly, you could have a project which is, I want to go out and I want to just evangelize about Cardano, and there's no one in my my local city or my state or my country that's doing this. And we've seen entire challenge categories being called like Grow East Asia, Grow Cardano, Grow Africa, Grow Cardano, Grow LATAM, Grow Cardano, and then
we need
the
to
project
grow the next block Cardano. Right? That's what I'm thinking. Sorry, go ahead, Kriss.
No. I was probably rambling by that point, but the point being is like if you've got an area that you think that there's a gap, and you think that there needs to be a gap plugged by a Web3.
Yeah.
Whether it's about onboarding people or building out a product or a service or a solution, then Catalyst is potentially a really good avenue for you to explore.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it. And it seems like it's got especially being, from what you've described, it seems very community led, that it would be a space that anybody really could come. Because I mean, I just know this in the governance model that I've seen that Algorand has, implemented so far, is most of the things are, it's almost like a directed governance, like yes, you're participating, and yes, it is on-chain governance, and you do get a vote, and one algo could you could vote with one algo, which obviously if you think of many places, you just wouldn't be able to be able to do it with such a low dollar value amount. But the things you're actually voting on are more, I guess you could say, scripted. And it seems like from Cardano's
it goes
Project
basically
Catalyst is if you have an idea, it could come through and could be voted on, and you could receive your funding, if you see value in it and you can convince enough other people that, that there's value there.
Yeah. Algorand's like, we give the NFT community 300,000 algos or 600,000? Choose one, and
then they'll come out. We'll vote on one, and they'll say, "All right, 450." No. Last second audible. No, and this kind of gets me to an interesting question. Just because I'm interested, I know that being in Twitter is a great tool, but also I think Elon Musk and the algorithms do a really good job at making sure you don't really see anything outside of kind of your bubble, right? How has the bear market really affected? And I know you may not know Cardano as a whole, or their, I don't know how engaged you are with their Twitter community, but I know, Algorand's Twitter community is in, flames and throwing, food fighting everybody. It seems every day.
Yes.
How has the bear market affected Cardano, Project Catalyst, and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, listen, everybody's felt it. I don't think there's a community in this industry that hasn't felt the pressures of the last 18 months. I mean,
just thinking that 18 months. Gosh,
it's been that long.
I literally since November of 2021, I think, or 2021. I remember because at Thanksgiving I was like, I was high fiving everybody. I was like, we did it.
We was going to the moon,
staying at the moon. Yeah, and then ever since then, it's been nothing but, well, especially if you're an algo, down to the right.
Yeah, we just hit all-time low, but that's a whole nother conversation.
Right.
Yeah. I mean,
wow.
The way it's really hard, right? Like, I appreciate it, and I understand like where everybody's perspective is coming from around this, and it's really easy to become emotional, and when things are bad. What I would say is that and I wouldn't say it's purely because of Catalyst. That would be wrong for me to say so, but because we've had Project Catalyst despite the bear market, and because the
Yeah.
treasury and the design of the Cardano protocol is the way that it is, it's meant that even when VC money has dried up, there has been avenues to explore, and for startups trying to build in the ecosystem to receive funding, right? Now, and this is where these ideas of a decentralized treasury become even more important, right? Like it's got to be able to you've got to be able to thrive in the good times and be able to survive in the bad times, right?
And
that's exactly what
to throw another question on top of that, I forgot to ask it earlier, but how does does the fee structure change to fund Project Catalyst as the price of ADA fluctuates? Like, say it is by the year 2030, right? I know everybody's got that year for some reason marked on their calendars, that's when crypto is going to be in Valhalla. But let's just say that ADA is $50, right? Is it still 20% of every single transaction, or is that something, I guess, that would also be voted on within the community on how that fee structure should change based on the needed requirements?
Yeah, I think you just answered the question, right?
Yeah.
But this is the beauty of Voltaire, and then
But is that active, or is that in part of this SIP 1664 thing that you were talking about?
It'll be all part of that, right? Like, essentially the governance of the protocol means all of the parameters of the protocol. And one of those parameters will be 20% of each transaction fee goes into the treasury. So there will come a time, I'm sure, when the discussion will turn to, shall we change the fee structures? Now, the fee structure and how much goes into the treasury is impacted by a whole bunch of different things. Not least, like, when you set up a stake pool or a validator, right? And then you're canvassing for people to pledge their ADA with you, to stake their ADA with you to secure the network. There's a minimum fee that's required, right? So each of those stake pool operators will draw a minimum fee from each of their stakers, and then that's what helps to keep them, afloat. And then they get to share in the benefits of the stake rewards that come down every 6 days. Now, there's been this minimum fee has been hotly debated for a long time. We're still not there yet in terms of a resolution. That's fine. The way that I tend to think about things, and I'm glad you sort of called out 2030, is everybody's in this, not everybody, a lot of people in this space are really sort of fixated on the short-term timeframes. 5 minutes and the 15 minutes. Like, I come from a background of, like, genuine innovation takes not even months to years. It takes years to decades. Right. And then when you think about something like decentralized governance and trying to get hundreds or thousands or hundreds of thousands of strangers from all places around the planet trying to coalesce and converge to make good decisions, that's a messy process. Like, why would we think that innovation is genuinely going to transform and disrupt in any less than years to decades?
TikTok,
right?
that's the one answer. TikTok and all this, like 15-second bit, AI, all this stuff. We're being programmed to think instant. I mean, that's our generation, instant gratification. So that's definitely the reasons why. But I agree. It should take much longer, and good things, do come to those things who wait, and it's things that really take the time to build. So I agree with that.
And I think too, with time, when we look at Bitcoin, hit its roughly 15-year mark, but not the rest of the industry. It's just Bitcoin that did that. And we see the, issues that Bitcoin is having as well. But yeah, definitely time. Even the internet, we're 23 years in,
Exactly that. I like to say an overnight success was 10 years in the making. Right?
Yes. Agreed. Yes. So, okay, we're going to slowly start to close out. Is there anything else you would like to share, or any like pointers? If someone, let's say, Nifshin was like, hey, we want to create a video platform for Cardano community, how do we get our proposal traction?
Absolutely. So there's a whole bunch of things I want to just sort of wrap up with. So first of all, if you've got a great idea, go to projectcatalyst.io, look out for the information about Fund 10, and then you'll be pointed directly towards where you can then submit your proposals. There's obviously the launch guide that you guys, I'm sure, will help me to retweet out to your audience.
For sure.
And again, that will have the TLDR on, what's your next first steps. If you've got a great idea and you're keen to submit a proposal, 2 things to do. Come along or at least watch a town hall. As I said, we hold these on Wednesdays. If you go to the IOHK YouTube channel, you'll be able to find a playlist there called Project Catalyst Town Halls. We've run 132 town halls every single week since, well, not every 132 every week, but we're at town hall number 132 in the last 2.5 years. So there's plenty for you to see. But the point is, either come along to a town hall or watch a town hall. And then you've got to get your proposal submission draft in by July the 13th. And then you'll have 4 more days to finalize it so that the deadline for proposal submissions will finish on July 17th. But even if you're just contemplating getting involved either as a proposer or as a voter or as a community reviewer or any of the roles that we sort of talked about, coming to town hall is really important because you get to interact with some of the other people there that are also going through exactly the same place. And whilst you're competing for resources, there's so much collaboration and goodwill and just a freedom, free-flowing knowledge exchange that happens in these sorts of town hall squares. And then we hold after town hall breakout sessions after the main town hall broadcast, so you can come and have even more discussion with people rather than it just being listening to information coming from the Catalyst team. But yeah, first port of call, projectcatalyst.io.
Nice. And obviously, if you guys want to go follow Kriss on Twitter, it's just Kriss Baird, which obviously you can see how his name is spelled there underneath him at Kriss Baird. And does Project Catalyst have its own Twitter as well, or is it?
I'm gonna put all the links in a tweet as well.
Okay.
And I'll tag Kriss and I'll put all these links that we have we've been putting on the screen.
Yeah. So on Catalyst's Twitter, no, we don't. That'll change soon enough, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's truly decentralized. You don't need a centralized Twitter, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's actually been part of the reason for it, right? Like, who would own the Twitter?
Right.
But it will get addressed. We're pretty confident that at the end of Fund 10, we're going to then have the mandate to go forward to continue with our roadmap. And all being well, then, things like our own Twitter will get spun up. But there's been so many other things to build first and foremost before worrying about our social media presence.
Yeah. And how old is Project Catalyst again? I can't remember if you said that earlier.
Yeah. Well, so we ran Fund 1 in December 2020. So really kind of December, January 2021 was when things really sort of kicked off. And no, forgive me. Sorry. Fund 1 started in September 2020. That was behind closed doors. It was literally a proof of concept test between just our team. And then from Fund 2 onwards, which was from the end of 2020 into January 2021, we've run pretty much a new fund every 3 to 4 months and doubled in size from 250,000, 500, 1 million, 2 million, 4 million, 8 million, $16 million worth of ADA. And now we're at about the same $16 million worth of ADA in Fund 10 alone.
That's awesome.
2030 could be crazy then.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and it definitely shows that no matter the market conditions, this Project Catalyst has been growing, and for only being, not even 3 years live. I mean, that is a really, it seems like, from what you showed us here, a really huge step to decentralization. And obviously the, CIP, 1664, you said, I think is,
Voltaire.
Yeah. Voltaire. Yeah. All that sounds like super, just, with the ethos of, what Web3 is. So, that's super exciting. And obviously, Kriss, I'm glad, we're coming up on the hour of the show. And so glad you took time out of your day to come here and show it to all of our viewers. Like I said, I know we have a lot of Algorand people, but I am one of those, Algorand people who love it, but I've enjoyed hearing more about what Cardano has going on. And this is the reason why we're kind of branching out and getting, these different people, because, you're in a bubble, you kind of, this like relights the fire, right? It helps you see that, even if this thing, doesn't work out, there's people over here working just as hard to create something just like it, if not better. So Algorand has its pros and weaknesses, but I feel like Cardano is definitely shining with Project Catalyst for sure.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. I mean, my sort of idea on this is that, and my mantra and ethos is that we're better building together, right? So whether you're in the Algorand ecosystem or any other community, the water should be warm enough for us to all come and swim together, right?
Yeah, agreed.
They should be as
Yes.
warm as the beaches right outside my door, which is middle of summer in Florida, so it's very warm.
Yes. More Cardano interviews. Love Algorand, but damn.
You're right. That's the way everybody's feeling today. And obviously, for anybody who's watching maybe in the Algorand or Cardano ecosystem, our boy John Allen Woods is actually going to be going toe-to-toe with somebody in the Algorand ecosystem. I don't know what's all going to be said, but it's going to be happening at 4 p.m. So 2 hours away from that. That'll be fun.
I'll be tuning in.
Yeah, I know John Allen Woods has been heavily missed from the Cardano ecosystem. And I know a lot of Algorand people, including myself, have loved having him, working in the ecosystem. So make sure to tune into that as well later on today and see what you can go ahead and close this on out.
Most definitely. Thank you, Kriss. Thank you, everyone who has been leaving comments, tapping in and watching the show. Please share this, get the replay. Look out for my Twitter post with all the links. Look it up. And once again, thank y'all. We gone.
Nice.